So, welcome to the Tibet Center. We will start with a prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dhamma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. Especially for those who work to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness. May they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered, Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors in consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there's no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future by means of transcendent knowledge fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisattva. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from the Samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, Profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Now to generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment, inspired by wisdom and compassion. Today, in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So, we've been discussing Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. If you want to borrow one, you'd like to follow the book.
Text.
Yeah. So, we have been discussing this book by His Holiness, which introduces, let's say, spiritual concepts in a secular, non-religious way. We reached, well, I'm going to start it on page 27. You have one?
I don't, I have it in my computer.
Okay. So, happiness and suffering. Well, going back, just since we are social animals, that is, since our survival and flourishing depends on being part of a group or community, our capacity for empathy has profound implications for our pursuit of happiness and well-being. So, His Holiness discusses how, in pursuit of our own happiness, it is our empathy, our compassion, our concern for others that provides us with happiness. That's what is being discussed. So, happiness and suffering. That we all seek a happy life is, I think, a claim which needs no justification. No one wishes for difficulties or trouble. This is something that the very constitution of our bodies confirms. Medical science increasingly suggests that a person who is happy and peaceful, free from fear and anxiety, will enjoy tangible health benefits. It is also a matter of common sense that even people afflicted by illness are much better off if they have a positive outlook. So I consider it a simple truth that this body of ours is meant for a happy life. A happy mind is a healthy mind, and a healthy mind is good for the body. But human happiness and suffering, unlike those of other animals, are not straightforward. A dog may find happiness by eating a good meal and then going out onto the veranda to lie down. While we may relate to such simple pleasures, it is clear that they are in no way sufficient for genuine human satisfaction. The never ending human quest for happiness and avoidance of suffering explains not only humankind's greatest achievements, but also the evolution over many millennia of this large brain of ours. Even the very concept of religion, I think, has arisen from this quest. For in the course of life, we inevitably face problems that are beyond our ability to control. Are you in the quest for happiness? Have we caught you seeking happiness? No? Do you have some source of happiness in your hand?
It's only good if I share it.
That was good.
Yes.
Wow. But the more you share, the more happy you'll be.
Until I have none left, and then I have to go back to Whole Foods and try to get more than I can afford.
Okay. So to maintain hope and to keep our spirits up, therefore, we develop faith. And to support faith, we turn to prayer. And prayer is a core element of religion. So let's go back over this, because I think this really is full of so we naturally seek happiness. Happiness actually feeds a happy mind is a healthy mind. A healthy mind is good for the body. So happiness, being happy, is good for our well-being physically as well. Gosh, tonight is an active.
Yes.
So the very concept of religion has arisen from the quest for happiness. In the course of life, we inevitably face problems that are beyond our ability to control. To maintain hope, this part I found interesting. To maintain hope and to keep our spirits up, therefore, we develop faith. And to support faith, we turn to prayer. And prayer is a core element of religion. So, what do you think of that?
Faith is,
Sorry?
what was the last part of that? Faith is,
To maintain hope and to keep our spirits up. So, this is in the course of life, we inevitably face problems that are beyond our ability to control. To maintain hope and to keep our spirits up, we develop faith. And to support faith, we turn to prayer. And prayer is a core element of religion. Similarly, I would suggest the extraordinary human achievements in science and technology, technological innovation over the past few centuries also stem from the urge to overcome suffering and achieve happiness. However, although our extraordinary mental sophistication distinguishes us humans from other forms of life and drives our astonishing success as a species, this very mental complexity is at the same time the source of many of our most enduring difficulties and hardships. Most of the problems we face in the world today, such as armed conflict, poverty, injustice, and environmental degeneration, have arisen and are maintained by complex human activity. Furthermore, our most persistent source of inner suffering at an individual level, fear, anxiety, and stress, for example, are also closely connected to our mental complexity and our excitable imaginations. Feel free to chime in, make comments,
I mean, I thought
discuss.
it was interesting that you tied happiness to hope. I guess, hope to faith. I hadn't really thought about it quite that way.
Well, hope is a hope for happiness or freedom from suffering. And faith is a complicated one because faith here is faith in something that might provide us with happiness. I think that this is faith in something beyond.
Beyond what we can reason.
I think to have some sort of faith, you need to have some conviction something is you could aspire to transcend the situation, and at the very least you would need hope. If, that there's that possibility to get out of your predicament.
And then religion comes along and provides you with methods for prayer.
And that's what gives you more conviction.
So are you praying for your finger to?
Kind of more that as Mr. Conway would say, force path correctly.
So
but you have to believe there's a path course that is effective and it does work.
So you have to believe.
That's certain.
Or faith.
So we talked last week, for Buddhism, faith is based on reason.
No, but here,
Right?
this is not limited
This
to
is just
Buddhism.
general, right?
Well,
So,
in the faith that's based on reason, you would have to go through all the reasons that provided you with faith in a process that would lead to happiness. If you believe in God, then faith in God and faith in His way would provide you with a way out of the suffering that you're experiencing.
right, which is more based on belief.
But it starts before you. There's a hope that there's a path to follow. It's a religious path, in science, or technology. That if you pursue it, that there's a hope that something will be beneficial even on a worldly level, but there's something at least beneficial on some level.
Right, because people who give up hope, it's kind of like that last sentence. People who don't have that hope often fall to the fear and anxiety because things are beyond their control and they don't see it that out.
So we're on page 28. However, although our extraordinary mental sophistication distinguishes us humans from other forms of life and drives our astonishing success as a species, this very mental complexity is at the same time the source of many of our most enduring difficulties and hardships. Fear, anxiety, and stress, for example, are also closely connected to our mental complexity and our excitable imagination, which lead to our difficulties. So, fundamental equality. In our quest for happiness and the avoidance of suffering, we are all fundamentally the same and therefore equal. This is an important point, For if we can integrate an appreciation of this fundamental human equality into our everyday outlook, I'm very confident that it will be of immense benefit not only to society at large, but also to us as individuals. So, as I look at what His Holiness has laid out here in these few pages, it this fundamental equality is when we are in the Buddhist path, working at generating bodhicitta. The first thing we have to do is develop equanimity. Uh, you can't work towards seeking enlightenment for all sentient beings if you are starting with bias. And so, to create that sort of equal attitude towards all, you work at developing equanimity, and in the method of exchanging self for others, you really contemplate how, just as I wish for happiness and wish not to suffer, each and every other sentient being wishes for happiness and not to suffer. And I feel that that's what His Holiness is getting at right here. For myself, whenever I meet people, whether they are presidents or beggars, whether dark or fair, short or tall, rich or poor, from this nation or that, of this faith or that, I try to relate to them simply as human beings who, like me, seek happiness and wish to avoid suffering. Well, that's really it. And we're reading it in here, but this is, I find, a really important meditation. This, to really sit and think that just as I wish to be happy and wish not to suffer, each and every other person, sentient being, the mosquito, the person who's causing me difficulties, wishes to be happy and wishes not to suffer. And that acknowledgement, that recognition sort of changes the dynamic, changes the whole our whole relationship to the world, to others, to life. And I feel that this is what His Holiness is introducing here in secular terms. Adopting this perspective, I find, generates a natural feeling of closeness, even with those who until that moment were complete strangers to me. Despite all our individual characteristics, no matter what education we may have or what social rank we may have inherited, and irrespective of what we may have achieved in our lives, we all seek to find happiness and to avoid suffering during this short life of ours. For this reason, I often make the point that the factors which divide us are actually much more superficial than those we share. Despite the characteristics that differentiate us, race, language, religion, gender, wealth, and many others, we are all equal in terms of our basic humanity. And this equality is corroborated by science. The sequencing of the human genome, for example, has shown that racial differences constitute only a tiny fraction of our genetic makeup, the vast majority of which is shared by all of us. In fact, at the genome level, the differences between individuals appear more pronounced than those between different races. In light of these considerations, the time has come, I believe, for each one of us to start thinking and acting on the basis of an identity rooted in the phrase, we human beings. Well, I find that little chapter very, very inspiring. And when I recognized it as being a teaching on equanimity and specifically that method of generating equanimity that His Holiness was introducing in these secular terms, it well, it's a sort of personal thing, but I repeat that if if within our daily practice we can incorporate this, it really helps us change our way of perceiving difficult people, challenging people, difficult situations. If we can really identify that what is motivating even the most difficult person is simply a wish for happiness and a wish not to suffer, and that is exactly what motivates me, and we share that, and in that sense we are the same. That really is, I think, fundamental.
You could shatter this world.
They could save this world.
So we human beings, we sentient beings. So are you listening? Are you listening to me back there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm on. It's working. Ah, good.
That's
It's interesting, Nicholas, that what we share is that we should all view ourselves as human beings and want happiness. And what we don't share is not everybody treats all human beings equally. And that's where the difficult challenges come in. And I'm willing not to judge people who are thinking only of themselves as they try to solve their happiness.
I think the big issue is worrying about making sure you treat everyone equally, if they treat you equally or not, and that's
Right.
where it starts and it becomes concurrent and from there.
Sure.
Yes, it's really important that what we're talking about is our own practice, our own view. We're not imposing this on anyone.
But it can also show up, this teaching can also show up in the thousands of people on college campuses all over this country and elsewhere that are protesting for the end of genocide in Gaza. They're all protesting for the same reason, and it all has to do with helping people, overcome. That's why all of these college campuses are now being, the presidents of the universities are checking out the location. But thousands and thousands of young people are protesting for this very reason right now.
But we have to, in our practice, we have to recognize that each one of those students protesting, each one of those college presidents, each one of those policemen, each one of the people involved is engaging in his or her action out of the same wish that motivates me, which is a wish to be happy and a wish to avoid suffering. And they're not going out there to uh, uh, out of anything other than those motivations. Hello, thank you. So in our practice, when we sit down and really contemplate this, we have to go to both sides of the manifestations. We have to go to the students and the police and the president and the politicians, and that we have to really come to recognize that each one, just as we wish to be happy and to avoid suffering, is acting like that. That's what changes our attitude. That's what we're working at changing ourselves, not them, not the political situation. Yes.
I was just saying, that's that's challenging something, because it's easy to judge.
Yes, but even if we judge, even if we're in a sort of judgmental attitude, even with that, we can recognize that that person who is acting in a way that we find vile is acting that way because of his or her warped uh, understanding of how to achieve his or her wish for happiness and how to achieve his or her wish to avoid suffering. We're all the same in that sense.
Universal motivation, no matter what.
The mosquito simply wishes to satisfy its.
I'm sorry.
That attitude is caused. There's many factors that cause those varying attitudes.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily them. We see them as them. We see it as them.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't get your point. I don't.
So if someone has an adaptable mindset or not adaptable mindset, it's based
Everyone
on,
does have an adaptable mindset, which is human nature.
it has been caused by many factors.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
We don't think of
The
those
expressions.
factors. We think of just the person.
Yes. So the quest for happiness. A human being survives only with hope, and hope, by definition, implies the thought of something better. As I see it, our very survival depends on some idea of future happiness. But if we accept that human beings are fundamentally oriented towards the pursuit of happiness and the avoidance of suffering, it remains to be explored what is meant by happiness and where it might come from. Happiness is a rather general term, so there's potential for misunderstanding. For example, it should be made clear that in this book's secular context, we are not talking about religious conceptions of ultimate happiness, but rather the simple joy of happiness we all understand in an ordinary or everyday sense. As I noted earlier, for beings of our complexity, achieving happiness is not straightforward. Unlike dog or cat happiness, for example, human happiness requires more than the simple satisfaction of sensory appetite. So, what are the sources of human happiness? Three factors immediately suggest themselves, which I think most people will agree contribute significantly to human well-being, namely wealth or prosperity, health, and friendship or companionship. So, taking them one by one: wealth, health, and friendship. Let's start with wealth. Does our material situation affect our happiness? Certainly it does. It would be foolish to deny the importance of material factors to our well being. After all, even a hermit living alone in a mountain cave needs food and clothing. Without a certain level of material comfort, people cannot live with the dignity we all deserve as humans. Of course, money is an important factor in our quest to avoid suffering and achieve happiness. But how much money is enough? In Tibetan, We sometimes call money by the nickname Kungat Dönrup. To Tibetan ears, this sounds like an ordinary personal name, but it means something like that which makes us all happy and can fulfill our wishes. Kunga, ga is happiness, so pervasive happiness, and Tönrup is to accomplish one's the meaning, that which makes us all happy and fulfills our wishes. Since money gives us choices and freedom, it is natural that people find it very alluring and can't seem to get enough of it. Occasionally, I tease my so Kungatun Rup. So Kungatun Rup is the nickname for money. Since money gives us choices and freedom, it is natural that people find it very alluring and can't seem to get enough of it. Occasionally, I tease my Tibetan audiences about the devotion to Kungatun Rup. You see, as part of our traditional religious practice, we Tibetans generally recite a mantra associated with the Buddha of compassion, Om Mani Padme Hum. We do this frequently throughout the day, often under our breath, even when we are busy with other things. Om Mani Padme Hum, we say, Om Mani Padme Hum. But when people recite it quickly, it gets a bit mumbled. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme, Mani Padme, Om Mani, Mani, Mani. At which point it starts to sound as if they are speaking English and saying money, money, money. But again, joking aside, of course, wealth and prosperity bring benefits. As humans, we need decent shelter, a healthy environment, nutritious food, and clean water. These are our fundamental needs, and as such, are prerequisites of human happiness. However, while the future benefits of wealth, a new house, a new car, a new telephone perhaps, may provide some temporary increase in our level of comfort or daily convenience, there's no guarantee that they will bring any lasting satisfaction or contribute to an overall sense of well being. In fact, acquiring ever more possessions often leads to greater anxiety, stress, and worry. And these factors can, in turn, feed anger and even resentment. So, what do you have to say on about that?
This passage reminds me of the experience I had where, when you're going through New York City and you look at people's faces, right? They're usually like most people have kind of a serious look or even an upset, like a scowl. And I'm used to that. And I was in India once, and I was driving through a little very rural town, where it was like the tin roofs and and people like using dung as for fire and stuff like that. And everyone had a smile. Everyone in this town, as my bus passed through this little town, everyone almost had a big smile on their face. And I was like, interesting. Because I'm assuming they had far less, material wealth. But they seemed satisfied and content. So.
Yes, but the difficult thing is it's very difficult to turn things backwards, around, go back to simplicity. We really have to sit and contemplate. We are part of this materialistic society, and we have to grapple with the advertising and the degree to which we are being, the what's it called, planned obsolescence of the tools we use, and all these things. We have to navigate these things. So what you recognized is an inspiration. But then we have to sit there and try to reason with ourselves when we are bombarded with these little hooks of desire that make us wish to buy the latest
Well,
camera.
also, what it made me think of is there's that a material aspect of possessions, but there's also the aspect of like, I think your average person here wanted to be like a famous rock star or something, and they're not, most people, right? So it's on that level too. It's like on a deeper level. I think most of the people there, I'm not saying they don't have aspirations or whatever, I'm sure they do, but it's probably a smaller aspiration, or that, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think it's just possessions of objects and materials in that sense, but also, a deeper.
Or cultural influence.
Yeah, it's like most of us, I think, are like we didn't get what we wanted, not just like a television, but something deeper. But yeah, I hear your point.
So how long ago were you in India?
This was in like about 2006 when I was there.
And
So nearly 20 years. And I ask only because even in India, people have more access to things. It was very interesting during COVID that you had those Amazon delivery people all over. And,
Showing up at the monastery.
well, the the disciplinarians in all the monasteries got together and decided that we should have a rule that one could not receive packages because that could bring COVID in. But initially, yes, and I think that post-COVID, the delivery people arrive in the monasteries on their scooters with these big bags on the back full of the stuff that the monks have ordered. So yes, even in the monastery. So what you recognized when you went to India in 2006, the happiness that people experience even without the things that we consider lead to happiness, that becomes what would you call it, the material that becomes the tool by which, or that we can, or one of the tools that we can use to, when we find ourselves overwhelmed by wishes for things. We feel that a new computer is the answer to my problems and will lead to happiness, and a newer one will do even better. And when we get in, we're all sucked into these to different.
And I think things manifestate differently, and we gotta be careful what we project. Other people are complacent without, that they're so content with. And fights over dowries or things, there's obviously a serious material concern,
Yes, but we're working on ourselves, and that
That's what I'm
becomes
saying. That's what we should work on, but
Yeah.
to me, everyone else is so complacent. It's just like you're with the other, I think everything starts with then, and if you're gonna transform anyone, it's by an example of complacency or whatever virtue is called.
Would you agree that like most people living in America are very rehearsed in terms of corporate capitalism and their relationship to the entire?
Wait, I don't know what you're talking about. So
Well,
I'm not
when
rehearsed.
When anybody talks about having and not having, or in, I don't know which page it was, wealth versus non-wealth, or wealth versus wanting more wealth. I think there is a point where people have to accept what we are all faced with quite deliberately without the extensive meditation or thinking on the parts of major corporate capitalists.
Yes, but we're not, we're trying to change ourselves. And what I was sort of getting at is that we, in our own meditation, have to recognize the fact that things are not going to make us happy, that the acquiring the things that we may desire um, only leads to a greater need for more or wish for more, and that we aren't ever satisfied. And we could, anyone who owns a car has owned many cars before and has gone through that same process over, and each time they've bought a new car, and they have, yes, they may have pushed their car to the sort of limits, and then they imagined that the new car satisfied all their needs, and then it started to get old, and then it had to be replaced, and we can see very clearly that extraordinary happiness that we attribute to outside phenomena um,
Until
is
he gets an e-car, and then he's not gonna want any more cars.
Naturally, human life
You need a
So-
charging station.
And no one another car.
and the sad thing is that
is
I think this might be what you're alluding to. The simple person in India who seemed to be smiling is caught up in that materialism today.
Or in New York, just assuming someone who doesn't have,
Everyone.
Certain ones are complacent, certain ones aren't, but
Isn't it important to understand that many people in India now are suffering because of lack of jobs, and also not having as much as other countries?
I mean, you can think through the causality of it, and it's important to understand the reality of it, but the personal transformation to be able to engage with that is kind of what and to be able to engage with that and acknowledge everybody's humanity and everybody's challenges, because I think where the balance comes in again.
Well, again, whatever we see in other societies or among other people or whatever, we should use as nourishment for our working on ourselves. That's the point. And that's important. And so, as His Holiness says, however, while the future benefits of wealth, a new house, a new car, a new telephone perhaps, may provide some temporary increase in our level of comfort or daily convenience, there is no guarantee that they will bring any lasting satisfaction or contribute to an overall sense of well-being. In fact, acquiring ever more possessions often leads to greater anxiety, stress, and worry. And these factors can in turn feed anger and even resentment. So I feel that paragraph is something to meditate on. It's something to really think about. And these analytical meditations are really the what will change us. These analytical, these little like little nuts of information that His Holiness has placed in this book are the essence of the transformation that I think brings us to the Tibet Center, or makes us seek a spiritual path. Um, uh, well, Interestingly, evidence compiled by psychologists and social scientists in recent years suggests quite clearly that material acquisitions have only temporary effects on what they call mental flourishing. Such studies suggest that after the initial excitement of a new purchase has worn off, our level of happiness quickly returns to its previous level. In spoken Tibetan, we have an expression which captures this phenomenon quite well, and I do not know of an exact equivalent in other languages. When a person is particularly drawn to the thrill of new acquisitions, we call that person asar tsabo, very asar, where asar means new. The implication is that such a person is not just greedy, but excitable and fickle, always running after the latest trend or the newest gadget. I think modern consumerist culture tends to encourage this kind of fickleness. So we are asar tsabo in our culture. But before even getting to asar tsabo, the whole idea that acquisitions have only temporary effect on what they call mental flourishing. I just got a new computer. My old one was nearly 8 years old, and it was during COVID, the screen went, it started going, and then the keys would get stuck, and then the battery was just dying right away. And I had these things replaced in India. And then when I came here the last time, I placed an order for a new computer, and I was told that it wouldn't get here before I had to leave again. When I left, somehow well, yes, I got it fixed each time. I got back here, and the first thing I did was order a new computer. And it's so interesting because the new computer doesn't do anything wonderful. It just does everything right. And I can see that eventually it's going to also go slowly and be difficult and all those things. But there's no, the only thrill is that it works.
People are like that too.
Can I ask something? So it seems like many of these things that is Holiness writes make so much sense, and we can understand them intellectually. But then at another level, we might not understand them sort of emotionally, or we understand them, but they don't cause a change in ourselves. And I wonder, or do they?
Well,
Wisdom of contemplation.
these, as I said, these are little kernels to be contemplated. And if you think about this, if you really sit and do the analytical meditation that His Holiness is suggesting, over time, of course, we all need tools to survive. But that sort of desire instinct and that belief that that new thing is going to provide us with happiness, that will get changed. It really will. But we have to do the work.
So there's a sense of repetition,
There is a sense of repetition, meaning,
that these things need to be thought through repeatedly again and again.
yeah, we have to work on ourselves.
This is the wisdom of meditation.
Yeah.
Buddhism is a religion of method, not of truth. The Judeo-Christian traditions of religion are all religions about truth. The truth is this, no, the truth is that. Buddhism is about method, right? You relate to the presence of your Lama. That can be a method which introduces you to the nature of your own mind.
Yes, but here we're talking about
method. That's not truth.
And these analytical meditations are also methods by which we will begin to see through the illusion of happiness being derived from the acquisition of things. Um, so yes, I agree.
And this holiness talks about method and wisdom, right? The combining of method and wisdom. Am I remembering that correctly?
Because
Yes.
formative, yes, it's form, yeah.
Method and wisdom. But here, I mean, when we're talking about method and wisdom in that sense, wisdom is a realization of emptiness, and method are the cultivation of
Actually,
virtue.
I was going to say something about happiness when you ask someone, what do you think about happiness? I find it a little bit insubstantial, and that would be like every fixed experience of being. They're related to each other in like what we call the weather. Right? In the wholeness of weather, there will be rain, there will be drought, there will be everything. In the wholeness of experience, there's happiness, there's unsatisfactoriness, there's deep depression, there's weather.
Yeah.
So those things are all form, and form is emptiness.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to say I've transcended emotion. I'm quite conflicted and quite torn and have experienced the rush of the adrenaline.
So we're talking on the conventional level. I mean, what His Holiness is doing in this book is really, excuse me, speaking on the conventional level. Well, without, it's not, near Manakaya would be um, uh, those kayas are already, Buddha forms. I'm talking about human ignorant aspirations for happiness, which uh, uh, believe in, are motivated by a belief in the inherent existence of the things that we wish for. Within that level of existence, we have to work on ourselves. We have to work at diminishing the afflictive tendencies that cause us to be unhappy. And we have to, of course, we can, the techniques and the point of views or the perspectives that you're suggesting, we work on, but we also have to work at diminishing our uh, tendency to indulge habits that cause us to suffer. We have to do both.
Is this book essentially telling people that everything that we think, believe, or whatever depends on the relationship to the spiritual world, whatever form that takes? Aren't most people, I'm not talking about myself specifically, I could be, but aren't most people not just rehearsed, but aren't most people involved in getting their spiritual life in tune with their faith?
So you asked, is this book? So this book,
Yeah.
I believe, is His Holiness's wish to provide people of different faiths, people who have no faith, people who believe in God, people who believe in religious systems that do not believe in a God, general people with an ethical system of thought that will lead them to a happier place, and will,
And that's the beyond religion.
Yeah.
Component, right?
and will also bring peace and greater happiness to the world. That's what he's doing. He's not teaching Buddhism to Buddhists in order for them to. He's doing that as well, evidently, but he is also trying to go far beyond um, the spectrum of Buddhist practitioners. He is trying to say to everyone, uh, these, we all seek happiness. So let us be careful and pursue those things that actually lead to happiness, and let us work through those things that actually lead to unhappiness. And these are the techniques that are not religious that will bring that about.
And you get a less self-preoccupied, getting more of an altruistic attitude towards everything. You have more of a sense of well-being and everything. Have more of a well-being.
If we walk through life, as I think that most people are sort of naturally self-centered and navigate life without really working at thinking about how similar we all are to each other and how we all wish for happiness. We might consider it among the people we love. We might even consider it from time to time among people sort of beyond that category. But to really open ourselves to considering that each and every being is simply motivated by his or her wish for happiness and a wish to avoid suffering, just the way we are motivated by that's what His Holiness is introducing to the world. And he has said, if we're sitting here, we're all pretty comfortable, uh, um, but as we know, in different parts of the world, there are wars going on. There are people who are really suffering. And all of those problems are man-made. They're all created by human beings who have disagreed with each other, who have their own perspective of what is needed in order for them to and their group to be satisfied. And so all these problems are human created, and His Holiness is trying to introduce a system of thought that can make everyone assume responsibility towards bringing about peace, happiness for all. That's what I think this book is.
Well, peace for all, and that's certainly not going to happen in the constant happenings of countries like Israel and like other countries that are invading.
But all countries.
So that they don't even have bread to eat at night.
So all countries have acted in serving ways for their own
Warmongering.
or to protect their own people. So I mean, we're not trying to we're not trying to blame, we're not trying to judge. We are recognizing the situation and recognizing our own individual responsibility to contribute towards a peaceful world. That's something that the only change that we can bring to the world is a change of our own attitude, and he's making us aware of that. Amen.
Definitely the amen quote, yeah.
So,
Can I add something to that?
Please.
It just reminds me of a children's book called The Golden Rules.
uh-huh.
It mentions that through different, ethnicity around the world, different cultures, they all want to have peace and love and happiness. But it's sad that it starts from me, right? And then you start to slowly influence or, bring it out around people around you. But the most important thing is that I'm the one who started it. Right? I think this is similar to what you're saying before, like simplicity, this happiness. And when I look at the kids, they were fighting maybe, for a couple days, but then the next day they became friends again. They totally like don't remember what they were fighting for. And sometimes when I look at them, I feel like, oh, I wish I could have that kind of simplicity, you know? But then if I had a fight with you, that's it. I'm not gonna talk to you anymore. But compared to kids, they're so, you know, you can say they're naive, but then they're so,
The resilience.
yeah, right.
We've gone over our time. Yes, Darren, are we?
Good job.
Darren fell asleep at this end. Who are we praying for, Darren? Hitchcock?
So,
Because I've heard Dalai Lama speaking in
Sherry,
similar, I've heard Dalai Lama speaking similar terms about having people getting in touch with their inner beings so that it's more peace. But this book was written in 2012, right?
mhm,
It's a different perspective a little bit, right?
mhm.
Same?
It should be that way.
So,
Peace,
Due
or by
to the
any other
recollection of
word,
the
is still
noble three
peace,
jewels.
no matter where it's in, out, or.
Katsumoi.
okay.
Katsumoi.
Well, so thank you for participating and I don't know, there may have been questions online, were there?
No.
Okay, so in the future, people feel free to ask a question on YouTube in the chat thing. You can chime in. I hope that this can be as much a discussion as it's not a formal teaching. It's sorry.
No, we need some form. We can't go all over the place. The same statement issued every 10 minutes. Does that work?
Well, that's what this book is about.
So we're going to recite the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels, and we are being asked to pray for
Peggy Hitchcock.
Peggy Hitchcock
And everyone else.
And Alice.
and Alice. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of Nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He is crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted, It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavad teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavad, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, are prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion. Virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the extreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in inconceivable, therefore the virtues are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. So let us end with a prayer for the swift return of King Moshe. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in form of one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lobsang to one Dorjichang. Please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast ways of aspirational prayers. Lord of speech of the victorious Lobsang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening. Yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclic existence end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirvanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta, drawn by seven steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religion, life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of sages' teachings, and wish fulfilling jewel. Return as the glory of Losang Temple. Magnificent truth of the three precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Sri Mati Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. Thank you.
Good to check.
Thank you, Nicholas.